Retire on Purpose, a financial blueprint to protect your family and preserve your wealth. Authored by Alynn Godfroy, the financial architect for Canadians. Also narrated by Alynn Godfroy. Opening comments. It was in 2017 that I published my first book, Why You Need a Financial Advisor. A lot of things have changed since then, including my becoming a mom in 2017 and our world experiencing a global pandemic. My husband also recently retired at the age of 50, which has been a big change in our household. My first book talked about why, at different ages, people would be wise to have a financial advisor. For example, in your 20s, having an advisor to give you the various options you have to pay for your first house or a range of strategies to pay off student loans is of vital interest to you. More and more 20-somethings are seeking out expert guidance. Today's youth are just savvier than we were at that age. Doing this kind of planning prevents too much of your money from being gobbled up right at the start of your working life. It can give you perhaps more disposable income for the rest of your life. But let's just fast forward to your 70s. You'll need expert support work on an estate plan, making sure you have the proper wills and powers of attorney in place, a strategy for elder health care, and options for leaving a legacy to kids, grandkids, and charities. You don't even think of such things in your 20s, do you? So why this book? I thought it was important to now do a book more specifically for the age group that I enjoy working with the most and whom I think would most benefit from my expertise. These are people between the ages of 50 and 70 and who are planning for retirement or just entering retirement. If the number 70 seems old to you, we are not our grandparents' generation. We live healthier for more years and therefore often choose to work longer. In my profession, the process of saving for retirement is called accumulation, and we should be doing it from our very first paycheck. The act of spending that money during retirement is called de-accumulation. This should not be done haphazardly, but according to a clear organization of your money and careful strategy for spending it. Why? So you don't run out of money while you are retired. If you are in this 50 to 70 age group, you will find you need to know how to properly decumulate your assets and properly structure any legacy you wish to leave for your kids and grandkids. In addition, you'll want to make sure you have enough money to live on so you can be comfortable for the rest of your life. I have chunked down the information you might need to retire in the following way. R is for review your foundation. E for envision your future. T, trim your taxes. I, insulate your income. R, reinforce your wealth. And E, establish your legacy. One of the things I would like to stress before you really dive into reading this book is that the examples and stories of people in this book come from real life. The stories are 100% true. However, you know the old saying, I have changed the names and a few of the details to protect the innocent. I will always ensure the privacy of my clients, have no doubt. I have lived most of my life in Windsor, Ontario, which is a very blue-collar town where many of my clients are auto workers, healthcare workers, civil servants, and trade workers. The average household income of my clients is probably somewhere between $150,000 and $180,000. This is not to say I don't have clients making less than that or households making more than that. This is just the range for a dual income household I most often see in the clients I work with. Most clients also have at least $300,000 of investment assets by the time I meet with them. When you're reading this book, I want you to realize the stories I'm telling you are about average, everyday people. In their stories, you can learn how people have done very well with their money. You can also read how things people did could have been improved upon with the guidance of a financial advisor who is well versed in organizing your finances and in tax planning. One thing I'd like you to keep in mind, it is not so much about the amount of money you earn or believe you need to have saved before you retire, but more about planning wisely for the money you have. It is clear that Canada's tax structure is daunting, so you won't have all the answers you probably need by the time you're cruising through the internet. You probably won't understand the intricacies of the pension you've been saving for and into for decades. Come and see me with all of your questions. My team and I will be able to give you usually comforting answers and, if needed, help you reorganize your finances for your best retirement. Chapter 1. Review your foundation. You know that your retirement is not going to be all about money, but for a comfortable retirement that lets you have all of those non-money things, you really need to look at what I will be calling your financial foundation. For most people who work, there will be multiple sources of income, and they unite to create your financial foundation in retirement. You probably already know what they are, but let's itemize them for clarity, starting with the obvious sources of money you have. Personal assets and income. While all of your money is personal, I have divided what you voluntarily do with your money from what you do because you are in a system. Example, pensions and so on. Starting with the obvious, you earn wages or a salary. You have personal cash savings. From your cash savings, you have perhaps put some in a personally managed trading account. Perhaps you earn dividends from some of your stock investments. You might earn royalties from a published book or recurring sale of an invention. You also might have a multi-level marketing business, run a digital business, do some type of consulting work, or have another type of side gig using your tradesman skills that brings in money even as you continue to work full-time elsewhere. Many of my clients own real estate assets such as a primary residence or vacation home without monetizing them. But others of you might invest your earnings over time into income-producing real estate rental properties, Airbnb units, or income-producing land. You might have invested in a partial or absentee business partnership. Business ownership may take not just the brick and mortar, but also the digital form that we call an online business. Perhaps you own a cottage or another major asset and plan on selling it when the value has significantly risen. You think you will set aside the after-tax profit for your retirement needs. These are all potential sources of personally generated income that you have that can extend into your retirement. These are typically part-time sources of income. I often caution my older clients about launching so-called income-generating activities right at retirement. I also discourage hanging on to such opportunities that are not producing income after a few months or which don't show a consistent profit. Why not? No, I'm not a killjoy. I have simply seen more than once how they might cost you more of your retirement income than you think and create an income loss for you instead of an income gain. If you are younger and have 3 to 5 years to develop such an income source, it will allow you to keep earning salary or wages elsewhere as you grow the new income source for yourself into a long-term money stream or a predictable residual income. Less common as an income source, you might have had a cash asset or asset windfall through an inheritance or trust fund and not spent the money. Like the profits from the sale of a major asset, example real estate or other, you should consider placing this cash in a safe haven, an interest-producing investment. Talk to me about some of these. I can help. Lastly, take a look at the types of insurance you carry, such as tax-sheltered life insurance policies. Some policies may serve as mortgage and income protection. Some might have a cash surrender value you can use to add to your retirement income. This is the big picture for your personally, voluntarily generated income. Wisely structuring that income after retirement is our main subject in these pages, but let's look first at how Canada's government-managed programs work to provide you with income after retirement. Canadian Retirement Benefits, CPP, and OAS. There are two main government-administered retirement programs, CPP, the Canada Pension Plan, and OAS, the Old Age Security. Those of you who have worked are eligible for the CPP. It is useful to know how CPP, the Canada Pension Plan, is funded. Through your working life, your employer contributes 5.7% to your plan, and you contribute 5.7% as a paycheck withholding. If you have been self-employed, you know you have been paying 11.4% or the whole amount, since you are seen as both the employer and the employee. This amount has progressively increased over the past few years, as it used to be 4.95% for the employee and 4.95% for the employer for quite some time. How do you find out how much you are eligible for? While the earliest eligibility is age 60, you'll be earning 30% less by taking it then than if you wait until the more typical age of 65. For those of you who have been residents in Canada long enough, OAS, or Old Age Security, is another source of retirement income. On average, most people will get OAS of about $642 per month, but see one common exception in a later chapter. Call Service Canada to ask how you stand for that benefit. Canadian pensions. There's the DCPP, DBPP, and RPP. There are three main employer-administered pension plans. While most people have only one of these plans, some of you might have more than one due to a diverse career. One, the DCPP, is the Defined Contribution Pension Plan. Two, the DBPP is the Defined Benefit Pension Plan. And three, RPP is the Registered Pension Plan. Each of these plans differs in how you can later withdraw the funds. The differences revolve around your taxes, limits to your withdrawal amounts, and your obligation to withdraw. Each plan is also different in how the employer matching works. Voluntary Personal Cash Savings, RRSP, TFSA, and non-registered. In addition to the earlier ways I listed for people who voluntarily save, many of you have probably saved into registered accounts or other tax-free instruments. These are plans you can voluntarily save into, i.e., not employer administered. Withdrawing money without penalties from each one comes with rules that you can ask me about. These plans are: 1. RRSP, the Registered Retirement Savings Plan, or Group RRSPs. These are similar to the USA's 401k plan with company match. 2. The NRSP, or NRA, is a non-registered account, such as a stock market trading or mutual fund account. Number 3, TFSA, the Individual Tax-Free Savings Account. There are tax advantages to many, if not all, of the plans I have named when you manage them properly and as designed. On an income of $70,000, for example, the Canadian tax rate is 29.65%. By saving into the RRSP and other such plans, you reduce your tax bill through a refund to your tax filing. The government allows you to grow your RRSPs tax deferred until you are 71 years of age. Then your RRSPs must be turned into RIFs, Registered Retirement Income Funds. From age 71, a 5.28% withdrawal is the minimum, and it is progressive to about age 92 at that rate and represents $5,281 per year. TFSA, optimizing your tax-free savings account. I truly believe the tax-free savings account, the TFSA, the third plan on my list above, is the most underutilized financial investments available to Canadians now. A TFSA is integral to any Canadian's financial foundation, or should be. In 2009, the government announced that any Canadian aged 18 or over could put $5,000 into this account. The beauty of a tax-free savings account is that you don't pay tax on any of the growth the account earns. When you withdraw the money, you likewise don't pay tax. The only tax paid on this account was when you earn the employment income or other income on the cash you initially put into it. That to me is a big, amazing wow. The benefit of the tax-free savings account is greater than a one-time $5,000. Back in 2009, when the government allowed you to put $5,000 into the account, they also allowed Canadians to make the $5,000 deposit every single year. Here is a list of all of the back years and how much you can contribute towards each of those years. 2009, $5,000. 2010, $5,000. 2011, $5,000. 2012, $5,000. 2013, $5,500. 2014, $5,500. 2015, $10,000. 2016, $5,500. 2007, $5,500. 2018, $5,500, 2019, $6,000, 2020, $6,000, 2021, $6,000, 2022, $6,000, 2023, $6,500, for a total of $88,000. How could this look for you? Say it is 2011. You didn't put money in the TFSA in 2009 or 2010. Now in 2011, you would be allowed to deposit $15,000 in your TFSA. You could do this because for those 3 specific years, you have $15,000 of contribution room. Now, fast forward to the publishing date of this book, which is 2023. If you have never opened a tax-free savings account and were 18 years of age or older in the year 2009, then you would be able to contribute $88,000 right away. If you're married, including a spouse or common law partner, then you and your spouse or partner also never opened a TFSA, then your spouse would have that same $88,000 of contribution room in the TFSA account. Again, this is one of the most underutilized accounts available to Canadians. Come in and talk to me about setting it up. Unfortunately, when the government gives something, you need to be mindful that sometimes there is a catch. With the TFSA, it is if you overcontribute, you could end up being penalized. Tracking your contribution room. As I said, our nation's tax structures are complex, and if you get it wrong, you risk paying penalties. This is also the case with the TFSA if you are not attentive. If you put too much money in the TFSA in a given year, the government will penalize you if you don't remedy the situation promptly. The government will charge you 1% of the overcontributed amount per month. If you don't catch your overcontribution early on the penalty amount, it can add up very quickly. It's fairly easy to avoid such penalties if you just pay attention to how much you put into the account over the years. Real people, know your eligibility. A couple of mine, Christoph and Ramona, came in to consult. They were not born in Canada, but had worked throughout their years. They thought they could retire about now. And Ramona wanted to know, what do you think, Miss Alynn? Can we do it? They were eligible for only about half the typical OAS amount due to their 24-year residency in this country. It is important to know that old age security differs from the Canada Pension Plan, as OAS is simply based on residency, whereas CPP is paid based on contributions you make as a percentage of your working income. The benefit is calculated on your years of Canadian residency after age 18. Christoph was already taking CPP, though he should not have been, and wanted to retire by age 62. We looked at their numbers together. They owned an income-producing rental property, so I noted that amount. They had a son on disability who got a $900 per month stipend for those expenses. However, it wasn't enough to fully cover the costs that his care incurred. We looked at their reduced OAS. They were a hiccup away from a derailed retirement, financially speaking. Additionally, they had spread their money with 3 or 4 advisors. This lack of consolidation meant that none of the advisors was giving sound, fully informed advice. I also noted they were not getting great returns on the money placed with the various advisors. They needed a plan. I crunched their numbers and showed them they needed to work for another year or 2 before retiring. Christoph and Ramona were still young enough to do so and did it willingly. I also suggested they gently raise the rent on the rental property, consolidate their investments with one advisor, and look at instruments that earned a higher return. They were actually in funds that were a little too conservative for them based on their risk tolerance. Knowing how much they will have in retirement in 2 years gives them no small amount of comfort. Real people, include all your income sources. A single mom, Crystal, came to me. She was in her mid-40s. Due to a conversation with another financial advisor, she believed she would need $3 million to retire. She was in a panic. How can I possibly save that much on what I'm earning? Crystal was in tears with fear. She didn't believe she could ever accumulate that much of a nest egg by retirement. She was afraid of retiring in poverty. She was losing sleep over this financial concern. Her former advisor probably spit out that number after running a 3% payout to get a $90,000 per year income. I believe he did this because Crystal was in the healthcare profession and earning about that much per year in salary. I played detective to determine her total financial foundation by asking her a lot of questions. I asked, and she saw that she did have the resources. She perked up a bit more and more. As it happened, the other advisor did not take into account her CPP, OAS, or RRSP amounts. He didn't even factor in this monthly income that she would qualify for in her retirement years. I told Crystal her CPP and OAS would generate around $2,000 a month. We added her RRSP. The other advisor had also not questioned her about any passive income or other investments she might have. It turned out she had a rental property already generating her a net of $1,800 per month for her. When I added all of her sources of income and showed her what her retirement funds would be, as calculated in her 40s, of course, she was all smiles. Crystal already had more for her retirement than she imagined. Then I asked her about her current expenses. How much did it cost her every month to run her household? She figured she was spending about $4,500 per month right now. Even when I calculated potential future inflation and did some simple math for her, she would only need to save around $500,000 above and beyond the CPP, OAS, RRSP, rental income amounts, and her tax credits. She also had nearly 20 more years to save that amount, and I demonstrated how much to save per year. When she realized saving that sum was totally feasible on her income, she nearly fainted with relief. I showed literally by the numbers that there was no way she had a gap of $3 million for her retirement expenses. This was a no-obligation meeting with her. She was so relieved to know she didn't need to sweat and slave to put aside $3 million in savings that she moved all of her money to our company to manage. We discussed ways to invest that new cash savings of hers so it would grow and thus help generate the amount she needed to make up the difference. No more sleepless nights for her. Real people. TFSA contribution room. Cindy is a client for whom I track the TFSA contribution room. I am her authorized tax preparer, so I can actually monitor the information on the government website for her. However, Cindy did not realize an error she was making. When she went to the credit union where she does her day-to-day banking, she was putting money into what she thought was her traditional savings account. It turned out that she was mixed up. She was putting the money into her TFSA. Unfortunately, I didn't know about this additional savings account she had, or I would have caught it for her in time. As it happened, Cindy got a nasty letter from the government stating that she had overcontributed $10,000 that year. Well, $10,000 at a 1% penalty per month is $100 per month, a $1,200 penalty. Correcting things simply requires immediate action on your part. What the government typically does first is send you an educational letter. Basically, it is warning you that you have overcontributed to your TFSA. This is your notice to withdraw the excess amount right away. As long as you get the letter and withdraw the funds in a timely fashion, the letter will tell you how long you have to do this. You are penalty free. However, if you fail to correct things or commit a second infraction in a later year, they are not so nice. They will require you to pay the 1% penalty.